Hello, everyone, and welcome to another pretty chunky episode of Bodied, a Cloud9 Fancast. We got a lot going on this week, Frozen.
Yeah, we do.
How are you doing?
I'm well. My COVID test came back negative, so that's good.
Dope.
For the NCAA tournament,
I know Alabama got
I do
beat
want
by
to
UCLA, which saddened me.
Yeah, I do want to send a rest in peace regards to Alabama, who
They went to OT. They took it to OT,
who
which
screwed
I
up
think
my bracket.
They took it to OT, which I think is pretty good. They really aren't good with like foul shots or
No, they're not.
they can't do foul shots, and they couldn't do anything like the only shots they could seem to make are either like 3-pointers or like right under the basket. Like anything outside of that range, they just don't like shooting. So like a lot of their games, they kind of cut it close, and they kind of caught up to them. I will say big props to my alma mater, my home state. Well, not I guess it's a home state, and then I'm from there. I live in a different state now, so it complicates things now when I tell people what my home state is and where I'm from. But my birth state, for getting a really good basketball program, they were the conference champions, and they were able to go all the way to the Sweet 16, which I think is a pretty good accomplishment. I think not a lot of teams get to go that far.
Yeah, we could have possibly gone that far, but UCLA beat us in the first 4 games.
Oh,
but
they beat you too. Okay,
Yeah.
so you just cursed. You passed on the
we
curse
took
to
them
us.
to overtime, and then we collapsed. But
Okay,
they
so it's
redeemed
exactly how your game went. You really just cursed us, didn't you?
I guess so. But they redeemed themselves last night by beating Michigan, and now they are in the Final Four, and I'm happy for them because they beat Michigan.
Well, that's good.
So
we
I'm
should
happy
probably
with that.
We should probably move on to Cloud9 things. So we actually do have a lot.
Yeah, and talk about breaking winning streak.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, which you should, because this is one of the few teams we do have left now. Rainbow Six they had I think a 7 or 8 game winning streak going, and they were crushing everybody. They lost to Damwon Gaming earlier this week, I believe, but then they sprung right back and they beat Fnatic 7-3. They are, I think, without a doubt, the best team in the APAC region. There aren't too many teams that can really contest them and really push them. And if you're not at least trying to keep up with the team, watching a game every once in a while, you really should. They are, I would say, maybe, I don't want to say historically, but they are one of our best teams currently. And they get almost no recognition, which is a shame. I think C9 really needs to rectify this because they're so good. We need to see more content from them. We need to see, I think, maybe even a little bit more promotion. I know that the Twitter, every time there's a match, the Twitter's really quick to announcing the game. And I think every once in a while they do show a really cool pop-off clip that happens on stream. But I think that they need to give the team the recognition that is deserved from a team that has consistently won events, and they have won championships, so big props to those guys. I hope that they can continue to do well this season.
Yeah, I was happy to see someone give them a shout out on the subreddit too.
Yeah, I saw that. That was really nice. They deserve it.
Yeah, they do, and it was cool to see. So shout out to that person and Rainbow Six.
Another little bit of news. WoW is still hot. We beat Charlotte Phoenix 3-1 in this week, which was week 2. Week 1, we beat OTK. So team's still good. Not much news there. I didn't get a chance to watch them, but I'm glad that the World of Warcraft scene is still going strong, and our team is still super strong. So, hooray!
Yep, good for them. I haven't been able to watch.
No, not that high.
Yeah.
But we can move on to probably our most breaking of stories, breaking in more sense than one, because it not only did it break news, but it also broke the hearts of many. Cloud9 announced that they would be, at least for now, indefinitely suspending their Counter-Strike program. Their excuse is due to COVID. Some people are speculating not so much. But how did you feel about this sort of sudden announcement, especially after this? It feels like really unfortunate and sort of unfair timing, considering that this was right after their very narrow loss to MIBR to qualify for the ESL playoffs.
It. I mean, it sucks because I like to watch our CS:GO team. That was one of the few teams that always came on at a good time for me to watch. But I guess if you look at the circumstances like surrounding the whole CS:GO team, it really isn't that surprising. They were brought in during a pandemic from different countries, all facing different issues like paying, coaching. It was just a really bad time to try and build a multi national team, and even despite that, they just weren't very good.
Yeah, I think there's internal and external factors that I think all kind of attributed to this. I think the pandemic is definitely something that is, I think, attributed to that. You know, there were no LANs. You know, I think CS:GO is really nothing without LANs, and you can't really get the best out of players if they're not on, sort of a LAN environment. You know, I think it's really sort of a LAN kind of heavy scene. So there's that. I think also just results wise, they were not, I think, meeting expectations. I think it certainly didn't help.
No, they
And
were not.
I think also,
Yeah.
and this is something that there's a solo podcast, C9 Win. Shout out to that guy. He makes some really good content focused around our CS team. And he did kind of like an episode that he kind of did. You know, he kind of put together last minute because he didn't expect that announcement. But he basically said that it somewhat wasn't fair, and C9 didn't really treat the team fairly, considering that they were just constantly changes within the team's structure. You know, you build this team, and then Kassad leaves, and then Woxic decides to leave. You know, and I'm not sure the situation on that, whether it's internal or he was just going through things and he just needed to step away for a moment. You know, I'm not sure. So then Woxic leaves, and then Alex is the opper, and then you had to switch up again and be like, okay, well now Esatag is the opper, and he mentioned how, like, after all of these hiccups, the team would kind of regress and hit like a weak point, but then they would eventually get back up and slowly improve, and could probably still improve if not for like the next roadblock to come in. And I can kind of agree with that. I think that the team was really dealt a bad hand. This team, I think, is really cursed ever since the major. We just keep finding roadblocks within our CS:GO team to just hamper any sort of performance and improvement. I will agree with you though that, considering like sort of the salaries and sort of the level of play that we're expecting out of these big name players, the results that they got, roadblocks or no, I think was kind of unacceptable. And, if you're performing about as well as the ATK roster did, I think that's not a good sign. And I think they definitely needed to maybe just stop. And I had been saying for a few episodes, we probably just need to stop the program, if not permanently, at least for a little while, just to kind of reorient ourselves. Because I didn't think we really knew what we were doing for the past couple of years.
Yeah, the results weren't acceptable, I don't think. But the circumstances around the team weren't ideal either. And I, I I feel like they could have used a little bit more time. Like the C9 or Win guy argued, but in 6 months that they never really showed any consistency to perform. They lost to tier 2 teams at tier 2 competitions more than once, I believe, and they never really had a signature win, except maybe who they beat? Navi?
No, they beat Furia.
Yeah.
And some people were even thinking that Fury just kind of intentionally threw that game to better help with seeding for how the groups were going to shake out. And there was a lot of talk about sort of the dubious nature of that win, considering it was so lopsided. It was really weird. I think that Fury match, they did play really well. It looked like things were finally kind of piecing together. I was really enjoying seeing Zeppa play. He quickly became one of my favorites on the team just because of how he played and how he kind of worked within the team. I really liked Zeppa. I don't know about you, but he was someone who really stood out to me. And Mezzi has slowly been improving. He looked like with each match he was kind of getting better, more comfortable with the team, more comfortable with what he needed to do, and how he kind of lurked and did some stuff. So, there were aspects of the team that I think were really good and were improving, but I think things weren't clicking and they weren't progressing, I think, at a pace that was really demanded of them and was kind of expected of them.
Yeah, and the team had a lot of resources invested into them too, and I guess if there was some kind of out into their contracts to if if they don't perform, C9 can not stop paying them, but pay them less if the team takes a break, quote unquote, then I think it does make sense to do what they did. I don't particularly think it was good ownership to do what they did for the Colossus at that time in any way, and I think they either should have kept ATK or the ATK roster going, or taken a break until land events were
Yeah.
going to start again, because I think it really does dent Cloud9's their lore and their what's the word I'm trying to think of?
Reputation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already it's already been it's been pretty dented. It's pretty banged up already, considering that whole year that we spent just trying to use stand-ins. I think that outside of the major, I think our closest to being good was the Flusha Keo roster. I think that was a really good lineup. I think it was smart. It had the firepower to back it up, and we had successes and pretty, good, we had pretty good results with it, but stuff happened, and of course, extenuating circumstances caused it to kind of break apart, and that kind of sucked, so kind of bad there. But yeah, I think also they didn't anticipate us signing Perks. I think that this deal was probably, we were talking to Henry and they're like, okay, the League of Legends team's just going to stay together. We have a lot of free cash up. Let's reinvest in CSGO and try to make a run as just a really strong powerhouse team. So, Henry has this laundry list of this grocery list of people of who he wants to play as, and they're setting things up. And of course we get Perks then, whose Perks was like, hey, that's $11 million contract on top of the already millions that you're spending to get Esatag and Woxic and Alex to participate on the team. And so, financially, that's just a really bad situation when you're spending all of this money that you may or may not have. So I think that also financially, it just, you can't operate like this, especially when you already have a really expensive player for one team. It's probably best to just go. So I'm really curious to see what's going to happen in the future if we do eventually return to CSGO. If it'll be later this year when lands are happening and things have maybe kind of quieted down with more people getting the vaccine rollout, or next year or whenever. I have no idea. I kind of would like us to maybe return to CS just because it is like a very staple part of our team and our team's history. But at the same time, I feel that with how the esports scene is kind of going, I think North America is just trending towards Valorant. I think everyone in North America just likes Valorant. I don't know anyone in NA that I talk to really likes to play CS. I think it's mainly like a European thing now. I just don't know if there's really a market, for CS in NA anymore. I think that's something that's really going to have to be considered when we think about making this next team.
Yeah, and I was watching a video from The Score about the Cloud9 CS:GO team leaving the game for now, and they had a conspiracy of Valorant for our Valorant team of keeping TenZ, taking Zeppa from CS:GO, moving Katie up to C9 Blue, and signing Vanity from Chaos as like a Valorant team. So I think that was just a conspiracy from the guy into the video, but I thought it was interesting to think about at least.
Yeah, I was going to transition over to Valorant because we have a lot of stuff to talk about there. So C9 White and C9 Blue actually both won tournaments over the past weekend. The white team won the VCT Game Changers. They were without a doubt the strongest female team of that whole event, and they didn't drop a single map, which I think is also incredibly impressive. Meanwhile, C9 Blue are the champions of the Nerd Street Gamers March monthly tournament. They lost to Pugstars in the group stage, which I did kind of tweet about just because it felt like this was just going to be the sign of the times of like, well, C9 Blue's being poorly, playing again. What a surprise. They did end up winning. There wasn't like a big competition. There were a few teams like Anbox, and I think it was like Big Gamers or something. Like there was a few like tier 2 kind of teams that were there that I recognized, some I didn't. But most of the part, this was basically like an event that's like, okay, C9 has to win this. If not, they will look like a joke. And they did win it. But I have seen, I believe TenZ's temporary contract agreement with Sentinels ends April 10th. So he'll come back to C9, and then I think that's when either they're going to negotiate a buyout and he's going to leave, or C9's going to try to work TenZ back into the roster somehow. But I think that's going to be difficult considering it seems like TenZ really doesn't want to be in C9 anymore.
Yeah, and I wonder if he wants another team built around him or not. Like the Score kind of said, but I don't know. I don't have a read on it. I haven't done enough research into what other people think, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him join the Sentinels full time since they need someone who is not a piece of shit on their team. So
yeah. I think that one thing that's interesting, I think, kind of talking about C9 Blue, is what we're going to do with the roster going forward. I think that with our roster and how it's made up, I think that we have really strong players in Leaf and Poise, and I think Zeta is a really good support player. But when you look at Mitch and Relics, I think that a lot of there are just a lot of players that are better skill-wise than Mitch and Relics. I don't want to shit talk Mitch and Relics because they're good players. They're nice guys. I like them. It's not that I hate them or anything, but I think that skill-wise, there are just so many players. Like in terms of duelists, I think we could get a way better duelist than Relics. And I think that if we're going to compete with TSM and Sentinels and T1 and Envy and Immortals and all these other like tier 1, top 10 ranked teams in North America, I think we have to have better firepower. When I watch VODs, and I was looking at also the score lines for the Nerd Street Gamers event. We're going to OT a lot. Like, we're not closing out games in a decisive fashion. We're going to OT. Before the Nerd Street Gamers event, we were pretty much always failing to clutch OT matches, and we were always just losing when it came down to that situation. So I think we maybe need to look at some better firepower there. I did see some rumors that Floppy and Zeppa could maybe transition over to the Valorant team, but I kind of doubt that. I think that's unlikely. But I think that there could be some structural things kind of going on to maybe change that. I'm not sure. It may depend on sort of their next results going to this next challengers qualifier that they're heading into. I would maybe like to see some changes just to add some firepower. I think Katie would actually be a really double duty or something, because she's really, really good, and I think that she would just be.
Yeah, she. She was
Really, she is by far super skilled, and I'm really glad she's on one of our teams, because it makes me more.
Yeah. She weekend. Seeing nine brought Zeppa over or something.
Yeah. I think that adding even I think that just adding him for sort of aimed. Kind of it's hard all universal like in CSGO where everyone has smokes and flashes, and that could be a little weird. But hopefully we can see some good. They kicked off this week. The European Contenders season is back, and they won both their matches. Still a powerhouse as ever, and yeah, really good to see the Hurricanes going strong.
Or so I assume they replaced the ones who got moved up.
Yeah, we have pretty much a whole new roster. I think the only mainstay I think was maybe Sparker, and that's because he was just not old enough to go into Overwatch League. He's underage. I think he turns 18 this year, so he has to play in the Contenders for a little bit longer.
Okay, so or so they did replace them though. Or so why are the Hurricanes playing in not
the Overwatch League. I think
League yet?
the schedules are just not lined up. So Overwatch League starts in like mid-April, I think, and I guess the contenders season was just slated to start earlier. And since I think I'm not sure if Overwatch League is on LAN, but since contenders is mostly online, I think they didn't have to coordinate as much, so they just started, I guess, when it was just regularly scheduled.
Okay, makes sense, I guess. Still sucks though because Overwatch League has been gone for so long. I feel like.
Yeah, it's been a while. Like I think the playoffs was maybe in like September, and so you're just waiting for the season to start, and it's like it's been almost half a year. And
have they like announced dates yet or anything?
I'm not sure. All I know is it's like mid-April, I think.
That's a long. Oh yeah, April 17th, possibly. Let me see. I'm assuming our game it would be on here.
Yeah,
London Spitfire, April 23rd.
April 23rd.
So we're still 3 weeks away, 3.5 weeks away.
That's a long time to wait just to watch the Overwatch League.
Yeah, us probably not be good again.
Well, I have faith. So I have faith in that when we played the LA Gladiators, which funny enough, we played the LA Gladiators in kind of a rematch on April 23rd. When we played them in the, there was that exhibition against a few Overwatch League teams. We took it to 5 maps, and we were really close to beating the Gladiators. And we definitely wowed a lot of the Overwatch League fans. And everyone was saying how we didn't look as nearly as bad as they thought we were going to be, and we definitely have room to improve. So I'm hoping in this rematch we can at least see a lot of grit from them. I can't. This is like literally the first, like, since the Overwatch League is also so big, we don't see all of the teams playing in week 1. But this is literally like maybe for some teams the opening match, for some like maybe like their second match of the league season period. So I think that there's not a whole lot of expectations. I can't really say like who's going to be good, who's not going to be. I'm optimistic that London Spitfire will at least not be as bad as last season, especially since we're not having to go up against a lot of the teams in Asia and in that region. So we can hopefully have a much like level playing field when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that got pretty rough for a minute playing.
I honestly legitimately quit watching Overwatch League after a certain point because I knew we were just going to lose. So I was like, what's the point of waking up at like 4 a.m. just to watch the team play and lose?
And at least it was quick and painless though.
Yeah. Hopefully this season will at least have some better results and some more fun matches. But mark it on your calendars, April 23rd. Let's move on to League of Legends because we got Proving Grounds to talk about a little bit, and then the playoffs. We crushed Dignitas Mirage pretty handily 2-0. I think in one game, I think like 4 of our players Flame Horizon Dignitas Mirage's top laner.
Yeah, and that was game 2. It was actually a really weird game, and at that point, Dignitas Mirage was only like 4K behind because they stole the Baron off a Jinx.
Yeah, I saw that part.
Rocket.
That was kind of unfortunate.
So if not for that flub, I think the game probably would have been over at that point. But it was fun to watch. We got to see some interesting stuff. Darshan played Tryndamere and Vayne top. Played well both games. I wasn't too impressed with Copy, at least in game 2, but I thought King played well. Isles was fine. Surenfire played well. So
yeah, they're definitely like meeting expectations, right?
Yeah, and this was their first competitive game since
like
February
a month ago.
17th, I think. So it's been over a month since they last played, and I think it was good for them to get off some rust. So
yeah, I think this is like definitely like the best warm-up match. Like there's literally no pressure. Like you already know, this is like Dignitas's amateur team. there is literally no way you don't come out of this with a win. You just have the more seasoned players. Like, imagine, I don't know who their top laner was named, but
Dragoon, I think.
Dragoon, right? Like, imagine like you're Dragoon, and it's like, okay, you're going to Proving Grounds. Oh boy, who am I going up against? And they go, oh yeah, you're gonna go up against this guy named Darshan. I don't know if you've heard of him. And then you have to go, in the bot lane, you have to go up against King, who is already like known for being a really skilled ADC, and he's like a 2-time Academy champion. You have to go up against Surnfire in the jungle. These are names that have been established, and you're just this amateur player that's up and coming, and you were able to get picked up by Dignitas, which I think is great. For them, and you're just having to go up against this team of like names that you already recognize. I'd just be terrified, So I think it's a really great warm up, and I think that hopefully they'll be prepared and they'll be able to prep more now that they've kind of caught some competitive, juices going to face whoever they play next. The uppers brackets stuff is still going on, so I think we won't find out who we play until like maybe tonight.
Yeah, Zoo Gaming, who you will recognize their top laner. It's Alorim, I think is how you say
it. Maybe.
Yeah, Alorim. I
think Lauren, that's what it is.
Yeah, he played Academy or LCS recently, so he's their top laner. They're playing TSM Academy, who has a relatively stacked roster, if I remember correctly. Haunter and Kodu de Sun are both on that team. So yeah. So we'll play the winner of their series tonight. So that'll be interesting. It kind of sucks that we might have to go up against TSM Academy so soon because their regular season wasn't good, but they still have a good team. So it is not the ideal place to be, but we do get to avoid 100 Thieves, Evil Geniuses, FlyQuest, and Team Liquid Academy for a bit longer. But our next game is Tuesday night, so that will happen before we record next. So make sure to watch that.
Yeah, hopefully they do well. I'm sure they will because they were first place in Academy, going into this. So I think that, I'm not. I think we're one of the heavily guarded favorites for Proving Grounds. So hopefully, as long as they continue to play well, I think we should at least have a pretty good path to playoffs. I know the competition will get tough at some points, but I believe in the team. But speaking of playoffs, we have the LCS playoffs. Do you want to talk at least a little bit about the matches that happened last weekend with TSM versus Evil Geniuses, and then 100 Thieves versus Dig?
Yeah, let's start with 100 Thieves versus Dig because it's the easiest to talk about. Dig took a dump out there and then just
they completely imploded, and I was so shocked.
They took a shit and just sat there. That's it.
Because I was so shocked because like Dignitas was looking like a really promising team throughout the entire regular season. Like they showed so much growth. They showed so much like potential. I think what's even weirder is that their coaching staff kind of got passed over for coaching staff of the split. Cloud9 got it, and I saw a lot of fans actually arguing that Dig was maybe more deserving of it, and I was actually going to make a case for them here, saying like Dig kind of did deserve it. They look what they did with their team, with a ragtag group of individuals that I don't think anyone was really expecting them to perform as well as they did. But Dig completely imploded. Dardoch was just not feeling it.
Yeah.
And everyone was
got the 2-0 down Dardoch too.
Everyone was just playing so poorly. Everything was so mismanaged. There seemed to be like not a lot of communication, or just not a lot of like good like strategic thinking, and they just
bad drafts.
I will say Ryoma did play his heart out in that series. He played about the best I think I've ever seen him play. He was like just hitting shockwaves really well in Oriana. He was he was playing really, really well, and I think that Ryoma does deserve a lot of credit for how he played, you know, in that match, because he was trying really hard.
Yeah, that's true. But I don't even think I feel confident at all about 100 Thieves after watching that, because they didn't have to do anything. They just had to go and show up and play and go through the motions, and Dig just kind of beat themselves.
Yeah, they really did.
But the 100 Thieves, or sorry, the Evil Geniuses TSM game was a bit more exciting. That was really close to being a 3-1 for Evil Geniuses too.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that it was so heavily leaning in TSM's favor, because, watching regular season matches, it seemed like Evil Geniuses were kind of primed to be the stronger team, and I think also TSM's matches sometimes were a little weird. Like, they would just lose games because like they'd be ahead in the early game, but then they'd make some bonehead play or whatever, and then they'd just coin flip it over to the other team. Evil Geniuses seemed a lot more stable, but Jizuke was just, I think, not performing where he should have. He was just really not playing well, and both of these teams, I think their strategies really do center around mid, kind of the mid difference, and who kind of excels better in the mid lane. And Power of Evil was just constantly making his life difficult, and I think they were also giving him some really weird champions that he just didn't look comfortable on. His champion was kind of weird, because like if it's like LeBlanc, Ryze, or like Echo, he does like incredibly well, but I think if you put him on anything else, his power level goes down significantly, because I think he just doesn't look as comfortable on like other champions.
Yeah, and he didn't have a great series either. I mean, Power of Evil's good too, so it's not like he was going up against Saligo or something.
Yeah, he at least in the regular season he was looking good. I think also the jungle situation, Spica stepped up a lot. Spica looked really clean in that game, when like I think during the regular season he looked a lot more sloppy. He looked really well. Senseiren was, I think, sometimes just not doing enough to be impactful. Like he was trying, but he wasn't doing enough, and some of the decisions he made kind of cost his team a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. And I think the biggest gap Otto was in ADC, because definitely did not play well at all series, and it killed them.
Yeah, I honestly couldn't think much about Deftly's play. I just can't think of anything to mind. It's probably saying something.
Yeah, he did not play well for them, and I think that killed them. I'm not sure if there's much they could do to fix that for next quote unquote split, but definitely did not look good. So tough
Yeah,
luck for them. But TSM is always a playoff team, so it's really not that surprising, I don't think.
no, it's not, and I think that EOGs will at least have some stuff to kind of go over, for next for the summer. Maybe they can improve there. I think that they do have like a, like a good foundation. They have a good foundation. I think their team is really good. Like on paper, you look at it and you can say like, yeah, that'd probably be like a top 5 team. They can probably do really well in playoffs. So it's a bit unfortunate. But that's just how it is. But this weekend we got a pretty tough one, as we face our nemesis, and some would say even our kryptonite, in Team Liquid, Saturday, April 3rd, 4 p.m. Eastern. We are going against Team Liquid, and they've been our kryptonite pros, and it seems that, and I think that part of
For
it is
years.
that they are kind of the antithesis of how we want to really perform. We are all about the 5v5 brawling kind of, we're going to fight you, we're going to scrap, put your face, get in the mud, really wrestle, and we'll come out on top because we are the better 5v5 team. And I think in a sort of a grander scheme of things, that's kind of always how Cloud9 has been. Even looking back to the high original OG5 days, we've always been kind of the scrappy gang where we're going to look for a fight rather than looking for sort of the more like macro oriented kind of, big picture kind of stuff. But I think Team Liquid really has that approach where they look for more, how can we affect the map? How can we, sort of spread out and really get as many resources as we can globally across the Rift? And I think that really counteracts on what we want to do in fighting, and then that can always lead to some problems. So I think it's going to be a really tough match for us.
Yeah, and I think it really it starts, if you want to talk about the game, into the mid lane with Jensen versus Perks. And I think what might be the most exciting part of this is the champion pool of these two. It could be anywhere from Azir or Orianna all 5 games to seeing like Fygar or Talon or Kiana or Yone or Lucian, Tristana. Like there's such a wide variety of picks here that it could be super exciting to watch.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be like every matchup is pretty much going to be watched. I think top lane you have Alfari, who has been looking amazing, versus Fudge, who pretty much every single game that Fudge has played, Fudge has improved and looked better and better. When we played in our first match against 100 Thieves, Fudge was just straight up dominating Someday pretty much like every single game, and he was looking really good. So that's going to be really interesting. Jungle-wise, you have Blabber, who is making a run for maybe another MVP win, considering how he's been playing for the split, versus don't tell me.
Starts with an S.
Santorin. Okay, there we go. I was gonna say Broxah, but no, Broxah's not on the team anymore. Santorin's been in the game for a while, and I think it's really cool that
on TSM in season 5.
Yeah. I think it's really cool that he's still relevant and skilled enough that he is still in a starting role, because you don't see that with a lot of players. Like his generation of players, mostly they kind of moved out, so it's cool to see that he's still in the game.
I guess how old he is.
Oh man, 24.
23.
Oh, I was off by 1.
Really young.
Yeah, that's really young. That's surprising.
TSM in 2014, 7 years ago.
You're making me feel old. I think mid lane's going to be an awesome matchup, because the Perks Jensen rivalry has been going on for so long, and I think that it's going to be really interesting to see how playoff Perks, right? How playoff Perks, because Perks has been looking really good in playoffs, since I think that it's not only prepping for just one team, but it's time to be serious, and it's time to get in the zone. So it's Perks versus Jensen. Bot lane, it's Sven and Vulcan versus Tactical and Core JJ. Just I think heavyweight matchups pretty much across the board. So it's going to be just really exciting to see everyone kind of go toe to toe and see who can come out on top.
Yeah, and I think if you go based off form from the regular season, that Cloud9 would probably be considered a favorite. I think Sven and Vulcan were better than Tactical and Core JJ, like in individually and as a unit. I think Perks showed a lot. It showed a lot more as a mid laner than Jensen did, all the way from his Galio games to his Yone and Tristana games. Blabber had higher highs, I think, than Santorin did, but I do think Santorin is kind of like Blabber's kryptonite in a way. Going back to the LCS finals in Detroit, I think Santorin was No, Santorin was not on that team.
No, he was on
It was
FlyQuest, I think, at the time.
yeah. Who was their jungler even?
Broxa.
Broxa. Yeah, so in someday or Elfari and Fudge. So I don't know. I feel like Elfari is obviously a better top laner.
Fudge has improved a lot since
He
he
has.
started, which I think that it's going to be really tough to really scale that matchup because every game he looks better and it looks like he's really putting in the time. Even looking at interviews, it seems like he's really like self-critical of himself, and he's not like just being like, oh, I'm the best, I don't really need to do this or anything. He seems to really like be putting in the time to make sure he's always improving and be better. So I think that it's going to be an interesting matchup. I'm not sure, at least meta-wise, what we're exactly going to do. I think that one thing, I think at least looking like sort of champion pools, don't give Core JJ like Blitzcrank or Tom Kench, because every time we go up against that man, and he has one of those too, it's not fun and we lose, and I'd like us not to do that.
I think both of us on a note that it's going to happen at some point because it always does.
It always does.
But I think Tactical's been slumping all year, and even against TSM, he wasn't anything great. Like,
yeah, I think this season he has had less like sort of pop-off games like he had last year. Like last year was really his like explosive kind of year where he was just crushing everybody and looking like the best AC out there. I'm not sure really what to do. Like, is Seraphine like the Seraphine like mid or Seraphine bot stuff? Is that still like? Do teams still do that? Is that still meta?
Yeah.
I only mention it because like it's something we could do because we haven't tried that like all year. Like a lot of other teams have tried it.
Or she gets banned a lot. So
that's true.
So I think that's partially why. But we did play it once or twice.
I can't remember.
We played Seraphine on Sven. I believe. I can't think of.
I can't remember if we won those or not. But
I think we did. But
okay, I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm not 100% sure. But she's busted, and they bug fixed her for 11.7.
I know.
Finally.
I know Liquid's probably going to try to ban out Blabber pretty heavily because his champion pool is actually quite large, and especially in this meta, it seems that all of his picks are pretty much prime, S tier kind of picks. His Olaf, his Udyr, his Lily is pretty good. It's not his best, but it's better than other champions. His Hakarim is also very good. Pretty much all the junglers that are meta right now are pretty much those that are kind of the go buttons that really like to start fights. So it really kind of helps him in his skill set. He's kind of in his power right now. So I think that they're going to try to target him out pretty heavily. And they're probably going to try to give Jensen counter picks, or top lane to try to abuse Fudge. We may have to like baby topside a bit because I think Team Liquid may look to try to just do a bunch of those constant like 3-man, 4-man dives top lane to put Fudge really far behind, and then just make it to where he's just not an element in the game. I can definitely see that happening.
I think it would make sense to do that because that's where their biggest advantage is, and I even think Cloud9 should focus around top side too, because I think that Sven and Perks can easily win their lanes and play better late game than their counter opponents in Tactical and Jensen. So I think getting Fudge even or ahead is going to go a long way towards our quick 3-0 win.
Yeah, it'll be that definitely would be a really big key to victory, because I think if you can keep Fudge in the game, he's also been excelling a lot on tanks, and I think if you put him on a tank, I think that kind of helps because he doesn't have to worry about, you're missing a big component of damage if he goes for something like the Camille, or I've seen Darius be played a couple of times. So if you put him on like a Darius or a Camille, if his damage isn't there, you're not going to be able to excel those team fights. But if he's on a tank like Scion, or Gragas or something, you don't really necessarily need him to be. You just need him to soak, right? So you don't need him to be like super fed or anything. So I think that could be maybe a way to counteract that. Because really, he really excels in the team fights, and you just need him to have a good enough presence to where he's not dying as soon as it starts, kind of thing. So hopefully we have like a game plan figured out. I think that we've had 2 weeks to prep for this game. We should at least win one game in the series.
I would hope so, and I think that we're going to win 3. I think one last thing before predictions, that if you look at from the lock-in tournament to now,
Yeah.
we lost that series 3-2, and I feel like Cloud9 has improved a lot more than Team Liquid has over that 2 or 3 month period. So
yeah.
I think that's enough to at least flip it to 3-2 Cloud9, but I would say that my prediction is 3-1 Cloud9.
I think we can win. I will say that Team Liquid has like a really mean prep game. Like I think that having Jat as a coach is really beneficial to them, because Jat, he was the best analyst, I think, on the analyst desk when he was a part of that group. And I always enjoyed him on the analyst desk because he was really precise. He was really like laser focus on that kind of shit. So I think that him being on Team Liquid just gives the team so much of an edge, because he's able to really determine what the team needs from an analytical point of view. And it's going to be really tough. I think we can win. I'll say, I think it's probably going to be a 50-50. It's going to be determined just who's ready to play, who prepped better, did everyone, get sleep the night before, did everyone have a snack, did everyone, get their right picks and everything. So it's going to be an awesome match. I think it's going to be probably the best match this weekend. I know TSM and 100 Thieves do play Sunday. Shout out to our boys at the 100 Talk podcast, as well as there's a TSM podcast, isn't there?
Yeah, and a FlyQuest one.
And a FlyQuest podcast. Shout out to all those guys. We just figured out your existence yesterday.
Yeah, they're new. So, and by new, I think I'm a month or two old. So
yeah, but that should be a good match too. It's definitely not as hyped as this upper bracket match, but I think the TSM 100 Thieves match is going to be really exciting. 100 Thieves look like, they've definitely stabilized. I think I know the mid lane situation is kind of wonky, and sometimes they do look a bit shaky, but I think the match that their win against Dignitas at least gave them some confidence, which is good. That's what you kind of need going into this game. And I think for TSM, they're prepared to show that they are the TSM of old that is looking to, fight and, go far in the playoffs. So it'll be a good match. I think TSM is kind of favored, just for the roster on paper, and kind of how they play, but we'll have to see. I kind of want to see 100 Thieves do an upset, if anything, just so we don't have to. If anything, so we don't have to play TSM in the losers qualifier match.
Yeah, I want to see TSM lose, but I am pretty confident that they're going to win.
Yeah, yeah, same.
But I was also confident that Michigan was going to be a UCLA last night. So what do I know?
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see this weekend. I don't have anything else to say. Do you have anything else, Frozen?
No. I think that's about it. What's your prediction for the Cloud9 game? You made it sound like 3-2, but
I'm gonna say
just to be
3-2.
sure, 3-2.
I'm just gonna say 3-2. I think that it'll probably get down to that, and then it'll be a down to the wire kind of.
That's a cop out.
I look. I like the cop
Who's the better
outs.
team? Who's the better team?
I mean, obviously. I mean, I can't not say C9.
Exactly.
All right, we're gonna
That's a
win
cop out.
3-1. We're gonna win.
There
3-1.
we go. There we go. All right. Good enough.
All right.
We'll see you back next week after another Cloud9 win, or maybe we can set something up with 100 talk, because if we lose, that's who we're going to play, obviously.
Yeah, so that'll be pretty fun. So tune in till next time, sports fans.
Yep. See you guys next week. Bye.